I told you the car that single-handedly brought the lightweight roadster back from the dead didn't come from Italy or Britain, but from Japan? Yeah, Mazda, the same company that made your aunt's old CX-5, is responsible for a cult classic that still has car enthusiasts fighting over it like it's made of gold and JDM fairy dust. This is the Mazda MX-5 Miata, but for the real car geeks, we're talking specifically about the NA, first-gen, pop-up headlight, early midlife crisis edition. Sold in Japan as the Yunos Roadster, and in North America as the MX-5 Miata, this car didn't just show up in 1989, it made an entrance. On February 10th at the Chicago Auto Show, Mazda unveiled the car, and car enthusiasts collectively lost their minds. Back then, it cost $14,000, which sounds adorable until you realize that's about $35,000 in today's money. Still a deal considering what it was going up against. British roadsters that leaked more oil than a deep fryer and handled like shopping carts. The Miata took that classic formula and actually made it work. Production kicked off in May of 1989 for the US and Canada, then Japan in September, and finally Europe in 1990. With that, the global obsession began. At its core, the Miata was a simple and pure idea. Take the best elements of the iconic British roadsters of the 50s and 60s, like the MGB, Triumph Spitfire, and Fiat 124 Spider, and make them work reliably without the constant breakdowns. In fact, while these cars were endearing, they were also notorious for their poor build quality, making them more of a headache than a joy to own. The Miata was here to change that. Design-wise, it was straight up inspired by those post-war British sports cars. The proportions were right, the rear-wheel drive was spot on, and the low-slung stance was perfect. But unlike those temperamental tin cans, the Miata didn't hate you. It didn't want to strand you on the side of the road. The NA Miata came with a steel unibody and an aluminum hood. Lightweight, but not a tin can. It measured just under 4 meters long, 1.67 meters wide, and stood at a low-slung 1.23 meters tall. It weighed in at just 980 kilograms or 2,160 pounds, which is basically nothing in car terms. That means chucking it into corners felt like cheating physics. The Miata was made to dance, to be flung around tight corners, and to be enjoyed at every turn. The drag coefficient was about a 0.38. Not exactly wind tunnel perfection, but again, it's a convertible from the 80s, not a Lamborghini. The suspension, double wishbones on all 4 corners. Front and rear anti-roll bars. It handled like a go-kart made love to a ballet dancer. Mazda didn't skimp on the fundamentals. Even the base model, the so-called bargain bin special, had competent bones. But the real magic was in the car's ability to bring driving joy without requiring the skills of a professional driver. Speaking of base models, this was stripped back simplicity at its finest. No power anything. No power steering, no power brakes, no power windows, no locks, no mirrors, no stereo, no air conditioning, just vibes and the open road. If you wanted comfort, you could look elsewhere. If you wanted driving purity, the Miata had you covered. You were in charge. It was just you, the road, and maybe a cassette tape if you were lucky. Under the hood, you got the 1.6-liter B6ZE engine, a 16-valve DOHC inline-4 with electronic fuel injection. This engine produced a modest 115 horsepower and 100 foot-pounds of torque. Sounds like lawnmower numbers today, but remember, 980 kilos. The Miata wasn't about straight-line speed. It was about feeling fast even when you weren't. You could redline the engine, feel that sweet symphony of mechanical noise, and still be under the speed limit. Thrilling without getting arrested? That's automotive art. The transmission was a 5-speed manual from the Mazda 929, and it was buttery smooth, like disturbingly satisfying to shift. Every movement of the stick was a tactile, precise action. There was also a 4-speed automatic, but if you bought that, the car should have come with a handwritten apology from Mazda. Seriously, it was a manual or nothing for those who appreciated driving. For the performance-oriented, Mazda even offered an optional viscous limited slip differential. This was for the people who knew what they were doing, or at least pretended to. Either way, it meant you could keep that rear end in check while having fun without worrying about a sudden loss of grip on tight corners. In terms of actual performance, the NA Miata wasn't the fastest car on the block, but that wasn't the point. 0 to 60 times ranged anywhere from 8.6 to 9.2 seconds, depending on how much the wind was blowing and how perfect your clutch foot was. Top speed was about 116 miles per hour in the US. Not blazing fast by modern standards, but again, this car wasn't about numbers. It was about that grin you couldn't wipe off your face when you carved through corners with ease. By 1993, Mazda dropped the limited edition Miata. Only 1,500 units were made, all in black with red leather interiors. These cars were special. They got BBS wheels, Bilstein shocks, Nardi trim, And ABS, the Miata in its tuxedo form. It had a presence not just in performance, but in luxury and style. Fast forward to 1994, and Mazda gave the Miata a slight glow-up. A new 1.8-liter BPZE engine was introduced with 129 horsepower and 149 foot-pounds of torque. By 1996, that was bumped to 133 horsepower and 155 foot-pounds. The base weight crept up to 990 kilograms, but the car still felt lively and sharp. With more modern features like dual airbags, more chassis bracing, a track bar, and that new, weird front badge that resembled a squiggly M, the Miata was still keeping its roots intact, but slowly evolving into something a bit more refined. The introduction of the Torsen limited slip differential meant serious drivers could stop whining about the viscous one. This was the Miata now equipped with performance gear that really brought it closer to its full potential. For those who were hardcore about their Miata ownership, Mazda offered the R package. No leather, no power steering, and certainly no automatic. What you did get, however, were Bilstein shocks, stiffer sway bars, sport springs, underbody spoilers, and a red Miata badge. It was as if Mazda said, "Here's your canyon carver. Don't ask us for cup holders." This wasn't a car for casual drivers. This was for the purists, the ones who lived for performance, who didn't care about luxury, only about precision and speed. As the years rolled on, Miata trims got a little wild. You had various special editions like the M edition, which came with different flavor options. It was like a car enthusiast sampler platter. Europe too had its own weirdness, such as the UK's Le Mans BBR Turbo Special, which wore 787B inspired livery. It actually had some real performance behind it thanks to forced induction, so it wasn't just a pretty face. Let's not forget the 1991 UK Limited Edition. This one was a stunner. Only 250 units made, finished in British racing green with OZ15 wheels and wood trim. It was basically the car version of sipping tea with your pinky out, a nod to the car's British inspiration, while still very much embracing the Miata's Japanese efficiency. By 1997, the NA Miata was wrapping up production. The last hurrah in the US was the STO edition, or Special Touring Option, another 1,500 units, because apparently Mazda really liked that number. It marked the end of the pop-up headlight era, and let's be honest, we're still crying about it. Those headlights were an iconic part of the Miata's charm, and when the NB came along in 1999 and killed them off, it felt like a betrayal. The NA had retractable headlights. That alone was 20% of the car's appeal. There was something about driving at night and flipping those bad boys up that just hit different. The click of the mechanism, the way they popped up from the body like little mechanical eyes, it was a part of the driving experience that no other car at the time could match. The NB Miata might have been an evolution of the car, but it never quite captured that same magic. So why did the Miata become the best-selling sports car in the world? Simple. It was light, reliable, easy to work on, and most importantly, fun. Like actually fun. Not the brochure says it's fun kind of fun. You could take the Miata to an autocross event, beat the snot out of it, and then drive it home with no issues. It had a magical balance of performance and practicality. It was cheap to maintain, parts were easy to find, and insurance was relatively low. It was affordable for enthusiasts and everyday drivers alike. The Miata's appeal didn't stop with performance, though. The community around it was massive. Forums, meetups, track days, and even memes. Miata ownership quickly became a culture. The famous phrase, "Miata is always the answer," is not just a joke, it's a lifestyle. Whether you're a weekend warrior or daily driver, the Miata represents pure driving joy. Whether you're new to the car scene, looking for your first project car, or just want a driving experience that makes you feel alive without draining your bank account, the NA Miata is the answer. If you liked this dive into the Mazda MX-5 Miata and want more cars with history, performance, and just the right amount of ridiculousness, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.